everyone. Thank you for joining. It's great to be here. We're having a wonderful time here at the Guthrie Museum. We've been able to join in some conversations this morning. I'm Dave Hyington, founding school director for Exploration High School. I have an awesome team with us today, and they'll quickly intro before we dive into exploring careers, empowering students to shape their futures. So with me today are a couple students, our internship coordinator at our school, and they're going to quickly introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Alicia Monserrate. Like Dave said, I'm our internship coordinator, and I also teach 9th and 10th grade social studies at Exploration High School.
My name is Corinne Brooks. I am a 10th grader at Exploration High School and have been there since 9th grade year and really enjoy it.
And I'm Lindley Sandoval, and I'm in 11th grade, and I've been there since 9th grade when the school first opened up.
Woo-hoo. So we are coming to you from the Guthrie. We're not in our home school location. I don't know if any of you have been to the Guthrie. There's a really cool 9th floor, like black box theater. It has some yellow casing all around and gets some cool views of the city. So we're just below that on the 8th floor. So that's why there's kind of this yellow glaze in the background shining on our presentation today. But come to the Guthrie if you haven't been. So what we're looking at today, we want to give some framing of how we think about our career and industry exploration and really empowering our high school students for post-secondary. We'll have some time at the end for some breakout groups to have some conversations and then any questions along the way. So just to give some context, as Lindley mentioned, we are Exploration High School in our 3rd year of operation. We opened as a public school for public good, led by our students, powered by our teachers, and rooted in community. Our students come from all across the Twin Cities. We are so excited to have our first graduating class of seniors in just 17 days from now. And we opened intentionally wanting to reimagine what high school can be and really make it more authentic and meaningful. And for us, we believe that when you give students the opportunity to explore their passions and their interests in a real world way, they're going to take off with that. Our students come, as said, across the Twin Cities. 70% qualify for free and reduced. About 20% of our students have IEPs, and 100% of our students are ready for whatever future they decide after exploration. So we do a lot of projects that are grounded in community and design thinking about what are solutions to real world community problems so that our students are creative and collaborative thinkers. Recently, they built a tiny house that's in our backyard, or they built garden beds to think about some sustainability, or some students were creating curriculum for engineering class for some of our local 5th grade elementary students and teaching it back to them because there are a lot of gaps in the coding engineering world. We piloted this year our career and industry exploration. We know that it is so important to give our students, listen to our students in high school and give them some choice in what they're doing and what they're passionate about. I just want to leave you with 3 questions that really frames our thinking at Exploration High School and really empowers our students to think and create their own futures. 1, what brings you joy? 2, what am I good at? 3, where does the world need me?
Okay, so before we get into the main part of our presentation, if everybody could humor me for a moment, putting my teacher hat on. In the chat, I would love for everybody to take a moment to drop their name, where you're from, especially if you're maybe zooming in from outside of Minnesota or the Twin Cities. And then think about, what career did you want to have while you were in high school, maybe middle school? And then what do you actually do today as an adult? So I was thinking about in kindergarten, we have like in the yearbook, everybody was asked what they want to be when they grow up. And then when we graduate as seniors and are going into college, they're way off from what we thought we were going to be as kindergartners. So I wanted to be a cosmetologist because my mom was a cosmetologist and now I'm a high school teacher. So I would love to see people drop their answers in the chat just so we can see what people were thinking about.
As we talk, if you could also just throw in the chat as we keep moving forward, why did you join the session? What's something you're hoping to take away from this? And what brings you here today? We're going to keep going and explaining our why, but we want to hear your why.
All right. So getting into our why a little bit, one of our number one whys is real world experience. We truly believe that our community is our classroom. So while we do a lot of hands-on learning inside of our building, so much more takes us out into our community and really applying what we've learned in the classroom and seeing it function in the real world. Also, eliminating barriers. When we're thinking about career and industry exploration specifically, so many industries have become exclusive and have barred access to people of color and queer folks and otherwise underrepresented communities. So our goal is that by having our students explore the community, different industries, and get to know themselves a little bit, that students will really be able to take hold of their futures. And when it comes to empowerment, by creating space for students to explore industries, areas of interest, and choose their internship sites, students have the freedom and autonomy to focus on their own careers and futures. So everything that we're doing at Exploration is to explore so that students have been able to learn and experience in order to make those decisions right away after they're leaving high school.
We opened in our first year with just 9th and 10th grade intentionally, 45 students, and we added a grade level each year. And so now we're fully 9-12 with a wait list this past summer, and we're expanding campuses next year, which is really exciting for us. And so in that intentional growth, we've had different iterations, and Kern and Lindley will be able to share a little bit about their own experience in that. But we feel really proud of what we've built this year and the lessons that we've learned that we'll get into as we keep moving this work forward. So we really think about what we want our students after graduation. We've asked them, all of our students, what do you want from high school? What are the things getting in the way? And what do you want to do? So we took all those things, and our students really, in co-creating that, want to take care of themselves. They want to be able to set their own goals. They want to be able to communicate effectively. They want literacy in all areas, digital, cultural literacy, and they want to navigate all the environments after high school. So when we asked all our students that, that's our graduate profile, our North Star. So then we start to bake our projects and our thinking and our work around those things, working in the standards that way. In thinking then about, okay, navigating all the things that are after high school, a lot of our students don't have access and opportunities to know all the possibilities that are out there. So we want to help them discover that through the year. So we've built out a program in 9th and 10th grade called Career and Industry Exploration. In that, we're exploring 20 of the top industries that we've identified alongside our students. So education, some of the ones you named, in the construction field, in entertainment, hospitality, in tech is a big one, healthcare. And so we want to expose our students to those things. So we, as a school, believing in flexibility, what we've had so far is Wednesdays as a no class day and a day to do field experiences, that we're constantly getting out of the building or bringing some speakers in to engage and workshop with our students. So recently they went through, because we're moving campuses, they went through a PR design challenge. And we asked our students in small teams, hey, why don't you build a PR plan for our new campus? And so they had to learn first about what is PR, what are all the things, the event planning, the marketing. And through that, we had a PR firm come on campus, did a little Shark Tank presentation. Curran, you were one of the awesome winners of it. And we're partnering with them and our students on this new rollout in PR. But that then opened up as students were able to reflect on that experience and say, hey, what did I like about that? What did I not like about that? When we were able to go to the state capitol and talk to some state representatives and really understand what that process is, or going to the Masonic Cancer Center on the U of M campus and understand what the research and healthcare field is. And again, that critical part is learning and reflecting on that. What did you like? What did you not? Could you see yourself in that? And so we start to have more of those conversations. So by the time they're ready for 11th grade and at an age where a lot of organizations are able to take more student interns, they are able to select a particular field and passion. We have 21 different community partners that we've been able to build out in just 1 year, because a lot of the organizations, as Alicia will talk about, is really eager and excited to partner, because there are pathways for our students. There are needs for all this. And we set a baseline as part of our graduation requirement. To graduate from Exploration High School, you have to do an internship, minimum 80 hours. Some of our students have done it for a couple semesters and into senior year, but at minimum, we want everyone that work-based learning experience. Ideally in a field that they're passionate about or interested in learning more about, so they can decide, is this something I want to do after high school? Or, you know what? Nope, that's not for me. Great, I learned that, and I'm gonna think about something else now. Not all of our students know what they want to do after graduation, and that's okay, because there's a lot of skills that are learned from that. As you transition into senior year, and we've had our first senior class this year, if you're around, you can come by May 24th to our senior capstone presentations. All of our seniors have been working on a culminating project, kind of like a dissertation, some working with community partners like Leo with the I-94 redesign. And so he, for example, or Emmanuel, who's been thinking about going to barber school, and he developed his own business plan and created his own business cards and putting a lot of time in thinking, hey, this is the schooling I need to do once I'm out of high school. I got to have my high school degree first, but here's my budget on how this is all going to work. So they've been working on these culminating projects in a field that they're interested in pursuing beyond here, and there'll be a public exhibition in a couple weeks sharing those learnings. So you can see again that progression, how we intentionally design and scaffold through 9th and 10th to allow for more choice in the upper class years.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit more about, excuse me, CIE. I work very closely with our 9th and 10th graders, and the CIE program that we've built out is exploratory, but it's also just a lot of fun, and it looks very different every single week. So Wednesdays are the day of the week that are dedicated to our experiential learning. And so sometimes we go out and visit an industry. Sometimes we bring people in, and then sometimes we just take small groups of students if an opportunity arises that maybe isn't appropriate to bring 70 students to, but maybe there's a small group of 5 to 10 who would like to see what's going on. So this is just, these are a bunch of different photos. A couple of them are, we have the PR firm that came by in the top right corner. We have Jason Soul from Humanize My Hoodie. He's an activist. He was also my professor in college. So he wears many hats and talked to students about his life experience and how that led him to the multiple different careers that he's had. We go to the Capitol a lot. So we have a picture with Maria Isa, who's one of our state representatives. And then above that, a student, we got to sit on the floor and vote with like the buttons that they use. I got interviewed on NPR about a month ago about ethnic studies in the classroom, and some of my students wanted to come and see what that world was all about. And we actually had a student on a panel. So the range is wide, but I think that's part of the fun of the programming. You have to think far in advance, and there's a lot of detail-oriented work that goes into it. But when you're actually on the ground and doing it, it's so much fun. And I think I know our faces are small in these pictures, but they are really enjoying themselves. And we just love to get out and about.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience as a 10th grader during these Wednesdays. One thing I really value about it is being able to go out and see industries I didn't even know really existed or understood how they worked. For example, we went to Ecolab, and I was like, what's that? Like, this is going to be boring. And then I got there, and it ended up being very interesting to me. And I recognized a lot of the things they were showing. And so just learning more and appreciating industries that don't get talked about as much as others, and just, exploring different industries. And then I again, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I think there's so many different memories and inside jokes and experiences that come with the Wednesdays, because not only are you out and about, but you're also like with your friends and with your teachers, and you're definitely building community, because we're having a shared experience that is very unique to our school.
Can we talk about the Innovators Compass?
One thing we do to help us kind of think about what internship we want to do is an innovators compass. And so this is just kind of a little example of what one might look like for me. For example, I am very passionate about animals. I currently have a job at Sustainable Safari, which is kind of an indoor petting zoo type deal. And so innovators compass could be like observations is this is what I enjoy. And then what do I care about in an internship? I want it to be hands-on and like different and a welcoming environment, and then some ideas. And then next year I get to choose or like what I want my experiment to be or what I want to actually have my internship to be.
Yeah, so with our 10th graders, we have the career and industry exploration, which ramps them up to at least having a wider like reference point of all the different industries that exist. But then we have to scaffold that choice piece when it comes to deciding what kind of internship you want, because I think unique at exploration, it's not just a menu of, here are 10 different options for an internship, choose one. We have a menu that is great to choose from, but if something isn't working for them from that list, or if they want something that's far and outside of that, we will help them find the thing. But sometimes that choice can be overwhelming. So the Innovators Compass is a process that we use to help guide them in some sort of direction by, like Corinne said, making those observations. What are the things that are happening? What do you know about yourself? The principles are, what do you really want out of a workplace? Corinne having strong culture on her Innovators Compass, like I had no idea that that was something that I would value until I was out of college and already looking for a career. And then just brainstorming all of the different potential ways that there are to work with animals, or if you want to be a teacher or work with young people, all the different ways that you can do that. And then in the end, right now, we're kind of in the phase of like, we know all of these different things that you can do to work with animals, but what are the organizations outside of Sustainable Safari that meet her values, so that then I can get to work finding something that is actually going to work for her in some place that she wants to be. Okay, so this is getting into our internships. I'm super passionate about our internship program. And I just wanted to show again some of the like smiling faces of our students. We have Deshaun in the upper left corner. He worked with Create Minneapolis, learning how to code and do some engineering. And then he helped in the robotics class at Ascension, where I think he was working in like second grade, third grade, fifth grade. So he got a wide range of experience working with young people. He walked away from that internship being like, yes, absolutely to engineering. No, absolutely not to young people. So a perfect experience where he was able to figure out what he's into and what he's not so into. Nathaniel is doing tech at Beta. We've got Ben in the bottom doing some property management. Over here, Dion worked at Slice Brothers Pizza, and we got to meet Mayor Carter at their grand opening. Up in the top right corner is Troy, and he worked at New Wave Aquaria, which was super cool because this was a prime example of none of our options that we had locked in at that point were something that he was interested in doing. So he just went around and like asked, and he was super passionate about aquariums and aquatic life. And so he found this place and just was like, hey, would you take me as an intern? And they said yes. So
now he has a job from there.
Yeah, and he is now a regular employee, which we have a couple of success stories like that. So this is not an exhaustive list of all of our partners, but I just wanted to show people like this probably, I would say it's one of the more tedious parts of running a program that is centered in choice and student autonomy, but probably the most exciting as well is that we have such a broad range of partners. And it's a true partnership. We're always looking for ways to get our partners out to campus. We go to them on our career and industry exploration, but the range is pretty broad for students and what they're interested in. We have nonprofits, education, social services, hospitality, and some of these have been places where we had connections previously, and some of them were just cold calls where I was asking if they would be interested. So I would say when it comes to this model of programming, sustaining those partnerships is one of the more challenging bits, but it's also one of the more rewarding to get to see all the different places our students end up. So a little bit about our partner process. Like Dave said, it's been like a year and a half in the works, and we established a lot of these partnerships over the summer. So as much as we can, we're super rooted in community, so it has been helpful to lean into even just some of the organizations on the block that our school is. We have a handful that are just like, we can see them from our front door. So always starting with who we know. But then, like I said, we make the cold calls. I have one student who really wanted to work with a mechanic or in a car garage of some sort, and I was not having any luck getting anybody to agree or getting anybody to really respond in that industry. He sat down one day, made a handful of calls, and locked in a couple of options. And now we have 2 mechanic shops that we work with as a result of that one student. Everything that we do is rooted in relationships. So when we are establishing a partnership with another organization, the relationship is at the forefront and it must be genuine. I work super hard in every single one of our meetings to ensure that the process is going to be mutually beneficial. I don't want it to feel like we're just sending off a kid to go and do, and there's no follow-up or communication throughout that process. And one of the things that has become very clear is how necessary it is, which is not a surprise, but that there needs to be consistent and clear expectations. We've had to refine our process for ensuring that there's a plan in place on both sides. I think we've been really well prepared, but for some of our sites, it might be the first time that they're taking on an intern. So going through that process together and really figuring out what works for both organizations. Some sites that we send students to, they want something really rigid from us, and others are like, we got this. So we really try to be flexible and lean into what works for everybody, but make sure that the expectations are very clear.
We're going to throw in the chat in a little bit a document that lays out those expectations that we build. So it's helpful to be a resource. We're an open source school, so if there are questions that are popping up, feel free to throw them in the chat along the way. But yeah, we'll share a document of those expectations for what it is as a school and what it is as a internship site.
Okay, I'll take it over on my experiences with my internship. I'm an intern at My Very Own Bed, which is a nonprofit organization that provides beds to kids throughout the Twin Cities here in Minnesota. It's pretty small, but they do a lot of good work in the neighborhood, and it's just good values that align with our school. I'll start with like the beginning with like the process of how we got with My Very Own Bed. They're like right down the street from our school, and just one day we all the 11th graders went around and visited different sites, and just like a hands-on kind of thing to really see what it would be like to work at, like My Very Own Bed, which is like a lot of warehouse work, or I know there was some like tech startups and other examples. And then after that, we went back to school, ranked our choices, and so if it was a very popular one, it was pretty competitive to try to be like, I really want to get this internship. And then I talked to Alicia a lot to be like, hey, I really think My Very Own Bed would be a fun experience and get a lot of experience. And then the first year, or like the first semester, we did internships. One of my friends got in, and then after their like 80 hours were done, I got in to My Very Own Bed, and he was just like, yeah, it's a great organization. And I'm like, okay, so that gives me a lot of hope. And then throughout right now, I'm like building frames and making dream kits, which include like pillows and sheets that go along with the beds and the frames. And I also do a lot of inventory and I do a few bed deliveries too. But my job is mainly to make things smoother for the volunteers who come in and do all the bed deliveries. And throughout my time, I've increased my independence has increased, and I've learned how important volunteer work is. And while I'm not probably gonna stay in this like warehouse type of job, my very own bed has really helped me see what I want to do, and the other options are out there. And,
Yeah, I always tell our students the second best option in an internship is that you find out you don't like the thing. While we would love to all enjoy every single work experience we have, that's not always the case. But then you have a better understanding of what you don't want to pursue and put your energy to in the future. So I've been really proud of Lindley for sticking with this internship. I think generally speaking, like she said, it's been a good experience while also realizing it's not what I want to do for the long term. And I also just want to stress my very own bed was a super competitive internship site. So many students wanted it, but they are a small nonprofit, so they only had the capacity and funds to be able to take on one intern. But she advocated for herself so beautifully, which ultimately got her that opportunity. And this picture shows Otis, who was the intern in the fall, who then gracefully passed everything off to Lindley.
As we've done this design, we've had to be intentional on ensuring equity throughout. And it really ties back to our 3 whys at the start. Real world experience, eliminating barriers, empowerment. I just want to highlight a few things of these in ensuring equity. One is leading to a diversity of workforce. There's a lot of gaps in some of these pathways in our queer students and our students of color. And so working to really give them those opportunities and access to these experiences. And 2 is leading to economic mobility, that this entrepreneurial education and really working on these skills will set our students for better economic mobility. In that 85% of our internships currently are paid. We really want that to be 100%, but being in our first year, we haven't been able to get all the organizations yet to put their line item in their budget. There are some organizations that have had a really good experience who haven't had to pay on this year that have added it to their budget for next year. So a goal for next year is 100% are paying because we don't believe in just the free labor.
I would also say for a student, if making some money was like a top priority of that, because there's so much choice and autonomy, they would never be required to be at an internship that wasn't paying them. So if that was something that was a real factor for them, then we would absolutely find a placement where that was on the table. For some students, maybe they already have a job. I don't know if we mentioned this, but our Wednesdays when our 9th and 10th graders are doing CIE, that's when our 11th graders are at internships. So it is during the school day. We're not taking them away from their regular work hours. So if a student does have a job, there were many students who were just really curious and eager to have the experience more than the extra dollars. So that's how those unpaid ones, kind of how that played out.
One thing that we always get a question about is how do students get there? What's the transportation like? For us, being here in the city, we're fortunate to have public transit. I know there's different mixed emotions too of riding the bus, and there's a lot of anxiety for our students and the safety around it, which is very valid. We want to use that public resource, and we really bake that into our 9th and 10th grade. And Kern can probably attest, and now you even ride the bus to school every day, but adding that comfortability because that's another part of that equity and allowing students as they get older to be comfortable riding public transit here in this city or cities across the world. So we do ask our students to do that. Sometimes they'll come to school and then they'll ride public transit from there. If a student's really uncomfortable, we'll figure out a ride transportation where one of us with parent permission is getting them to their internship site. I just want to highlight Dion, Alicia mentioned at Slice Brothers Pizza. Dion, for instance, had never really ridden the bus before. And St. Paul Slice Brother location, and he's living over in North Brooklyn Center, Minneapolis area. And so that ride through a few transfers is daunting. And so what we ended up doing was taking him there and then riding the bus back with him so that he could start to get comfortable with that. And so when he was comfortable enough and his parents felt comfortable enough to that, then he started riding the bus there and back. So it's not just a, hey, free for all. We have to build in those intentional scaffolding transportation moments and help students understand too of, okay, like before you get on the cart, like make sure you look around. Is it safe? Is there a crowd of people or something? And maybe you need to go in a different cart, whatnot. So teaching them some of those street smart skills too, to riding public transit.
So I just wanted to talk about some lessons learned. This is a relatively new process for us, and as a school who really prioritize reflection, we've learned quite a few things. So some adjustments that we're going to be making in the future. We had the Wednesday situation this year, CIE, and the internships. We are exploring shifting to a Tuesday, Thursday schedule. In my meetings with our partners and with a handful of the interns, we felt like the once a week for 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours, was harder for them to feel integrated into the culture, which is something that's really important to us. So we're thinking of exploring twice a week for 3 or 4 hours instead of that one day for 8 hours, which would mean an entire shift for our schedule, but that's okay because we're hearing from our students and our partners. Along the culture notes too, just intern pairings, having another student, if possible, at the same internship site. A lot of learning was, we had a few organizations where they had multiple of our students together, which just led to a more like integrated experience for our students, and especially on that initial comfort level. And then also facilitator support at school. So we've done this career and industry stuff. We got the students ready to be at their internship, but there were still so many unknowns for our students. So we incorporated a couple weekly meetings where the students are with me in the classroom and we're going over, I mean, even if it's just tracking their hours, sending an email that they need to send to their supervisor. But we have learned that the facilitator support at school is a really crucial element of students feeling set up for success. Even if they just have a conflict at the site or something they're not sure how to do that feels scary to ask the supervisor, then they can ask me instead. So that's been super helpful to have. Again, keeping it simple was the key. We'll share our internship requirements, but our main goal was flexibility and that students were learning by experience. So we didn't add a ton of extra layers of like work in there. We do have, they log their hours in a simple format, and then we do have a halfway interview or a review session. Supervisor and intern will sit down and work through a feedback session, and then again as they leave. But those are the main requirements, because we didn't want to add a ton of work on the student or the site, because the experience is the learning. And then lastly, finding opportunities to share the learning. So we will be having our first internship fair in a couple weeks here, where the 11th graders will show the 9th and 10th graders the internships that they've had, the things that they've learned, and then continuing to collaborate with sites and community partners to be part of our learning community. We have found some valuable opportunities to connect, especially in those CIE opportunities, but we want to have a more regular cadence where our sites are really part of our school and a presence that people know. Like I spend so much time with the supervisors, and so do our interns, that I would love for our other students to like know exactly who that is when they walk through the door.
And building on that, it's nice to start that work now to be able to reflect so that we know heading into the summer can plan that current as a rising 11th grader is going to be able to already rank choice. Okay, these are my things. We've already had a lot of conversations, understanding. So then that groundwork can hit the ground running in September. One other thing I just want to add that I get a lot of questions of is, how is this sustainable? Because this is a lot and we have 40 right now, 40 11th graders. We're tripling in size in the next few years. And so we're going to have classes of 80, 90 students and have every single one at a different internship site. So we're thinking through a few different things and conversations I've had with other schools and organizations. One is creating more pathways as an option for students. So for instance, our new campus has a full culinary arts kitchen. So we just create a pathway on our campus around the culinary arts. That's going to take a handful of students. Some students want to be firefighters, so working with the Columbia Heights Fire Department as fire explorers. The nursing or media is another pathway a lot of students have interest in. So what sort of certificates and things can we build in? We also want to maintain that choice, though, that if some student isn't really geared towards one of those pathways, then they still have that. But we believe it'll probably end up being about 50%, 50%, 50 choosing some sort of pathway that we capture into some programmatic thing, and then about another 50% doing some internship sites. So we'll continue to reflect and grow as a school, but I just kind of want to name that as our strategic planning and thinking as we grow. So if we're going to stop sharing our slides for a quick minute just to see if there are any questions that popped up in the chat and things or burning on people's mind. And then we're going to have a moment to do some breakout groups so that you can have some conversations, meet some other folks across the state and in area. So forgive us for a second, because we were not able to read comments as they were coming in around our shared screen presentation. I don't quite yet see any questions, but I'll do a teacher 7 second thinking. Yeah.
I haven't seen any questions, but certainly people are welcome to unmute if you have specific questions right now before breakout rooms.
Yeah. And the breakout groups will be a time too if you have things you all want to talk about before you talk to them with us.
Cool. So Amy's going to create some breakout groups then, and we asked you to do a few things. One,
people are dropping their phones.
Intro yourself, and it might just be us talking. What's a takeaway or what's a connection, something that you heard or something, a practice that you're doing in your current school organization that's been an aha moment for you, a sharing of learning, or what's something that you heard that you would want to take back, and then seeing if there are any questions.
Yeah, we were just talking with Brad about how we challenge the idea that college is the only way. And so Dave was just talking about working with families because that has been one of the challenges is our students are in this place where they're getting to see all this exploration happen, but families kind of are somebody that we got to help bring them along on this journey too, and show them why college isn't the only option. But I think, Brad, to add on to what Dave was saying, some of it is the showing and seeing too. I think one of the most popular outings that we've had was Dunwoody, right? I mean, The kids came back from Dunwoody buzzing. They had no idea that there were all of these options to be in a space that had so much innovation, so many tools. We have a ton of kids who are excited about that kind of work. We also have a partnership with Uncommon Construction. Phenomenal organization. They're a nonprofit that helps students get hands-on experience with construction. So Dave had mentioned the tiny house that students built. We built that with Uncommon Construction. They've done the tiny free libraries. They were doing an elective during quarter 4. Our students were building picnic benches. So really just getting students the experience also to see like, okay, maybe college isn't the only option. There's a lot I can do.
One other thing I'll add, Brad, some of the activities we do is them just exploring a particular career and seeing like what pathway or what degrees they need, but then also salary. Like money speaks to a lot of young people. And so they realize, oh, wait, the construction's like industry, or as a contractor, you can make some really good money in that. Or as an electrician, like there's some really good money out there that you don't need to go to that traditional college path. So helping, again, families and students do some engaging activities that's exploratory on some of those, that tends to pique interest. Appreciate the conversations and questions. Are there other things? I know we have slotted till 2. We don't have to use the whole time, but I want to open up to other folks if there's any other takeaways, aha moments, or questions that are out there. Appreciate your engagement, for being here, for being part of this change in this movement. It's really important work, as you can hear from our students, and we hope to continue to be part of this conversation and encourage you come see us on campus to learn more, or we'd love to visit you on your campuses to learn more. But really, we're stronger together in this. So keep fighting the good fight.